Go.
Hello, my name is Alison Parker.
And I'm Logan Albright. This is a special bonus episode. Allison liked being on the last episode so much that she insisted I bring her back to talk about another book. It's her favorite book.
It's not my favorite book.
You told me it was your favorite book.
No, it's Freedom by Jonathan Franzen is my favorite
We're
book.
not talking about freedom.
I would love to talk about freedom.
No. We're talking about American Gods by Neil Gaiman.
By Neil Gaiman, right. And I read that because you told me to.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, well now
Okay.
you know. I read it like 4 or 5 years
It's
ago.
not even my favorite Neil Gaiman book.
It's the one you told me to read. Maybe I'd read the other ones that you wanted me to read.
Here's the intro music. All right, American Gods, Neil Gaiman. I like Neil Gaiman a lot.
I do too.
Because he's interested in a lot of the same things I'm interested in. He talks a lot about folklore, mythology, kind of ghost stories. He's really into kind of the popular fantasy culture. He likes a lot of the same authors I like. He dedicated one of his books to G.K. Chesterton, who's one of my very favorite authors. So he and I share a lot of interests, and so I enjoy his books for that reason. I think he's a great storyteller. I think he tells stories in a very engaging and entertaining way, which is probably why he has so many movie adaptations of his books out there. Right?
Absolutely.
Neverwhere, Stardust.
Graveyard Book is in development. American Gods is on Showtime.
It's on Showtime. And there's another one too, but I can't remember what it is. But yeah, a lot of his books get made. Coraline. Coraline is the other
that
movie.
was a great adaptation. Tim Burton?
Yes.
He was born to make that.
I don't think Tim Burton directed that movie. I think it was Harry Selick.
Okay. It was creepy.
He directed Nightmare Before Christmas, but everyone thinks Tim Burton directed it. Anyway, that's beside the point. American Gods is a book by Neil Gaiman. Probably his most adult book and his longest book, I think. Is that right?
It's probably longer than Good Omens.
Yeah. Well, Good Omens is co-written by Terry Pratchett, which is a great book. I recommend that one as well. But American Gods, it kind of collects all the pantheons of different gods together under one roof, which is awesome. Because if you're like me, you love gods, and you can't get enough of the Greek pantheon, the Roman pantheon, the Norse pantheon, the Celtic, the Egyptian. They're all there. All your favorites, collect them all like Pokemon. You got to catch them all.
And then there's the new gods, which are things like media,
like television,
money, the
communications.
press.
Yeah.
I found that interesting too because more so than being gods, it's kind of new idols.
Yes.
And today, if he wrote that 10 years later than he did, what new ones have been added just in the last decade?
Twitter.
Cell phones.
Yeah.
I guess that's encompassed in some of the other things.
Not necessarily cell phones, but smartphones.
Smartphones for sure.
Yeah.
Well, the main character, his name is Shadow, and he is at the beginning, no spoilers, but just the setup.
You have to look directly into the camera, they can't hear you.
What?
You have to look into the camera. If you look at me, they can't hear you.
Okay. So the main character's name is Shadow, and he's recently released from prison, and he may or may not have committed the crimes that he was convicted for. He's a dynamic character. We don't know too much about him. He's very mysterious at the onset of the book, and it's in a sense a road trip book.
It is. That's a good point. Very good way of describing it. It is a road trip book with gods. It's like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas with gods.
Sure. I was thinking On the Road with
On
gods.
the Road, yeah. That's a better example.
So as he journeys throughout the book, he's making friends and making enemies, and you're gradually being introduced to these gods, but you don't always know when he's meeting a god. Sometimes you just think it's a bartender or a vendor, and it happens
or
to
a man
be...
with one eye and a raven.
Absolutely.
That happens sometimes.
How is a raven like a writing desk?
Poe wrote on both.
Well, what do you think some of the overarching themes are in American Gods?
I think Americana is big. Well, Neil Gaiman is obviously British, which I like about him. I've talked before on this show about how I like British authors better than American authors for the most part, and I tend to gravitate towards them. But Neil Gaiman has a real fondness for Americana, and it really comes through in this kind of travel across America book. You really get a lot of that, so that's a big theme. And then like Allison said, the focus on modern technology and the kind of the false idols of what people have substituted in their lives for what used to be taken up by gods. That's a major theme as well.
Is Amanda Palmer, Neil Gaiman's wife, is she American or English?
I don't know.
I don't either. That would be interesting to me. Overall, I really enjoyed American Gods, but I found that after maybe 3 or 4 months after I read it, I didn't remember a lot of it. And I don't know if you had that same experience.
I know Neil Gaiman likes it very highly among his books that he's written. As for me, I think it's a really interesting concept for a book, but I prefer his kind of more lighthearted, a little more playful books. Like American Gods is pretty serious, and I thought Good Omens with Terry Pratchett is a lot more humorous, and I really enjoyed that. And Nancy Boys is more humorous. I tend to enjoy his more playful books. The Graveyard Book is considered a children's book, but I love the Graveyard Book. It's a great book. It's so fun. So American Gods is a little heavier and a little weightier, and I know he loves it, but I think he's at his best when he's being a little more playful.
There's the book that he's written since the Graveyard Book, and it's called The House at the End of the Lane or something like that, and I found that very compelling as well.
All right. There you have it, folks. Neil Gaiman, great author, great storyteller, author of many film adaptations. I think you'll enjoy his work. Check it out.
I do recommend it.
Bye.
Bye.